The bipartisan infrastructure bill has passed Congress, and now it just needs the president's signature. That'll likely happen Monday. The bill will provide billions of dollars for projects right here in Utah. Utah Senator Mitt Romney was part of the negotiations, bringing both sides together. He's here in studio to talk more about the process and how the money will be put to use. Senator, great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Glenn. Good to see you.
Let's go back to the very beginning, when the negotiations started. When the group came together, did you find common ground immediately? Did it start to click, or were there some contentious moments?
Well, there have been a lot of moments where we said we just can't get the deal done. It's too expensive, or we're not focused on the areas that are critical, and so we went around and around. It took about 3 or 4 months for the, about 10 of us that worked on this, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. But we came together and said, okay, let's focus only on physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, broadband, water projects, those kinds of projects, which the country basically needs.
And how did the 10 of you come together? Walk us through how that happened and why.
Well, it's kind of funny because back last year we had dinner at Lisa Murkowski's home, same group. We were talking at that point about COVID relief, and we said, can we come up with a way to bridge the gap between Republicans and Democrats? We did, and that became the basis of what happened back in December of last year. And the same group said, hey, should we take on infrastructure instead of this huge bill the president wants? Can we narrow it down to physical infrastructure, which is what we did.
There are bipartisan moments in Washington. This one example, but they seem to be few and far between. Why is that? Why can't groups come together more often like you did on this issue and get things done?
Well, I think a lot of what happens on political issues is that people are playing to the base of their respective parties. A lot of performance politics, if you will, which is saying things to fire up the base, but without any intent to actually get something done. And I think you can know, for instance, when someone announces a bill that they're bringing forward, if there are no sponsors on the other side of the aisle as part of that bill, why is this a messaging opportunity? Because to become law, it requires Republicans and Democrats to agree in order for it to pass the 60-vote rule.
Talk about the Utah benefit. How much money will be coming to our state, and what will that money be put to use for?
Well, in addition to the normal money we get every year that relates to infrastructure, there's $550 billion on top nationwide. We'll probably get our fair share of that, which is going to be roughly, several billion dollars, all right? So it's going to be...
I've heard $3 billion.
Well, we get $3 billion just for roads and bridges alone, roads, bridges, and overpasses, but there'll be close to $1 billion on transit projects. There also probably $500 million or so will be on water projects. Broadband into rural Utah is going to be, I'd guess, close to $500 million as well. So there's a lot of funding that comes in, that comes to our state.
Okay, and obviously, the benefits to the state of Utah and to Utahns who are sitting home and watching this are what?
Well, the key thing is that we're a growing state. And over the coming decade or so, we're going to need more transportation from whether it's Tooele or the west part of our valley, more transit opportunities, more water, because it's getting pretty dry. We need to expand our broadband to rural Utah. All these things are funded in this legislation because just maintaining our current roads is not enough to keep up with the demand of a growing state like ours.
You were the only member of Utah's congressional delegation that ended up voting in favor for this bill. I want to touch base on something Representative Blake Moore said, and he was concerned from his perspective that Democrats were tying it to the larger spending bill, and he says he could not help advance Speaker Pelosi's what he calls fiscal tragedy in any way. Why did you see it different than the rest of the delegation?
Well, we negotiated a bill on physical infrastructure. The president and the Democrats have another bill, which is on social programs, which is massive, which I think every single Republican in Congress opposes. And we recognize we like one, we dislike the other. The Democrats may talk about them together, but frankly, had we not done our bill, why, the president would have just put them all together himself. And they would have had the sweetness of physical infrastructure together with all the other stuff that nobody wants. So we've probably made it less likely that his bill passes, that $1.7 trillion bill, than more likely.
Where does that bill go from here? Will there be any negotiation, and can the two sides come together?
The answer is we're just not going to get to the same place on their bill, their social bill, if you will. How many trillion, we don't know what it'll be, tax increases and so forth. That's just something Republicans are not interested in participating in. We haven't been asked by the Democrats to help. They're doing it entirely on their own. It'll get no support from Democrats, but because of an unusual rule on spending and taxing, they're able to pass that one on their own.
Let's talk about Veterans Day. That's today. Yeah. You were up at the University of Utah for a ceremony today. There was a rally in D.C. that we covered with our Washington bureau yesterday. Veterans coming together and trying to raise awareness for long wait times, backlogs, cancellations with the Department of Veterans Affairs. What does Congress need to be doing to watch out for our veterans and do everything you can for them?
Yeah, I think the answer is exactly what you described. We have to do everything we can for our veterans. I mean, the fact that you and I are still alive is, and that we have all of our arms and legs and so forth, is a result of the fact that veterans have sacrificed, in many cases, their lives, serious wounds, lost arms and legs, and provide us the freedom that we enjoy. And so we have to care for them in the way that's appropriate. And recognizing that's going to require funding. Fortunately, we have here in Utah a very good Veterans Administration facility with good people that are there. And we want to make sure that we see the same kind of quality expanded to other rural parts of our state as well as the rest of the country.
All right, Senator Romney, appreciate your time. A lot going on in Washington, D.C. You'll be back there again next week.
Exactly.
Thanks for being
Glenn.
here.
Thank you.